everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be taking a look at what is inside my travel bag by popular request from you guys, and especially those of you over on Instagram who were really excited to see what I was up to over this last week while I was traveling. I was in Austin visiting some friends, and I wanted to go ahead and bring my travel bag so that I could go ahead and sketch while I was out there, and I actually did that. I know sometimes we have plans where we'll bring all of our traveling things, and then once we get to a destination, we get caught up in other things and don't get around to it. Especially on the plane ride out there, I was able to get a fair amount done and did a little bit of sketching on the way back as well, with some coffee shop sketching in between. So this is my current main travel bag, and I also have another little mini version of this that I'll show you as well. You might recognize the artwork. These are bags with my artwork on them, and I do have a few of them available over in my Etsy shop. There aren't a ton of them left, but if you are interested in either of these once you see kind of how they function, I'll put a link in the description below as well as up in the corner there for you. Actually, let's go ahead and start with the smaller one because this is the first one that I used regularly, and we'll save the bigger one for later. This pouch is, I believe, 5 by 8 inches and has a slightly shiny finish to it. It is double-sided and has a zipper closure, and inside it even has a little hidden pouch as well, which can come in handy. I usually keep business cards in there. And the first and biggest thing inside of here is my watercolor palette. So in this one, I currently have my portable painter as well as a little cheat sheet for the colors that are in there. I did do a video on my top 12 favorite colors. If you want to go ahead and see that, I'll put it up here, and I'll also put it in the description below along with links to my review of the portable painter. This is a really cool travel palette if you haven't seen it before. It is convertible, so it goes from a carrying case into a stand that can hold 2 cups of water, as well as either balance on your knee, leg, flat surface, or even a bumpy surface or uneven surface. It balances really, really well. Inside, we've got mixing areas so that you have plenty of room, both big and small wells, to mix your paint. There is a little compartment here that it comes with a little tiny travel brush. I don't know if that's nearby. Let's see. Yes. Nope. Nope. Yes. 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 This is the brush that came with it. This is also a convertible brush where it has a smaller end tucked into the back of it. I have to admit I don't use this very much just because it's such a tiny little brush, but if you do really small paintings, it would work really well for you. There aren't many other brushes that fit in here in terms of travel size, but you can also fill this area with little dollops of paint if you wanted to try out some other colors that aren't on your main palette. The wells in here hold little small half pans, like the Winsor & Newton size ones that are a little bit smaller than the standard ones. Standard ones can fit in here, but they're going to stick up a little bit, and depending on the size, they might impede your ability to close the lid. And then you can also take out the pans entirely and just fill the wells with paint, which is what I did here. So moving on from our watercolor palette, there's enough room in here for quite a few other supplies, so I'll go ahead and show you what I have in this one. Starting off with my favorite eraser ever. This is a Faber-Castell dust-free eraser, and what it means by dust, I think, is that you don't get all the little tiny flakes of eraser shavings everywhere. It comes off in bigger chunks. Like when you roll it, it'll collect itself together and be easier to kind of move or throw out of the way, and it erases so well. I have several erasable color pencils that I use for sketching these days, both the Pilot Enos, or Pilot Enos, I'm not sure which they go by, and the Colarase pencils from Prismacolor. And the erasers that come on all of these pencils don't erase the color super well, but this eraser does. So obviously I also keep my drawing implements in here, and these can change out depending on what I think I'm going to be sketching. I have a container of colored pencils off to the side of my desk, and I'll pick up whichever ones I think I need. These ones are blue and purple, and then I also have a gray one that is kind of like sketching with a graphite pencil, except this one smudges less, so I do like working with this. In case I want to do line work, I also carry a fine liner with me. This one is a Micron 01, and this is kind of like a mid-range size. I can do both fine details and make thicker lines if I need to, although you'll see in my larger bag that I carry 2 different sizes. And then I also have a Univille Signo white gel pen. This is the Angelic. It is smaller and not quite as covering as the other Univille Signo, which again you'll see in the other one. But both of them work really well depending on what details you need to be doing with them. Finally, I've got my brushes. Now I have to say that by far I use these brushes the most. These are the Pentel Aquash brushes, and they are water brushes, which means that they hold water in the barrel. You can fill them with water and then have a really, really portable way of traveling. I probably use these brushes 95% of the time while I am traveling and cannot recommend them enough. Again, I have another video I'll put up in the corner for you so you can go ahead and check out a little bit more about these brushes. In the event that I do want to use a real brush rather than a watercolor brush, I do have this little Raphael size 3. This came with, I believe, my Sennelier paint set. It has the cap still, although you should be really careful when you're putting a cap back onto a brush so that you don't bend back any of the hairs. But this is a nice little brush, and given that this particular set has the water cups from the portable painter, I have the option of using a real brush rather than a water brush if I am so inclined to. Here you can go ahead and see the bag empty again with that pouch for you, and if you are interested in this bag, I believe there are a couple more red pandas maybe left in my shop so that you can go ahead and find that bag there. Alright, and now we have this beautiful creature. I am in love with these bags, and ever since I got this one, I honestly have not used the smaller one, even though I used to use the smaller one all the time. This bag is a 10 by 7 inch canvas-like texture, so it doesn't have the shiny finish, it's more matte. It also has a loop over here, and it comes with a carabiner, like this one here. And they are super, super durable. I imagine that they might get a little bit more scuffed up due to the texture of the fabric, but I've been using this for several weeks now, and then again it went to Austin and back and hasn't been any worse for the wear. When we pull back our zipper here, there will be quite a few little goodies to unfold, starting with probably the longest, most awkward piece in this container is the Palomino Blackwing pencil. These are a really dark graphite pencil, and they're really fun to sketch with if you like to sketch with graphite. They have an eraser that you can go ahead and pull out and adjust depending on how much of it you have used. That slides right back in there, and I find this a lot of fun to do really rough sketches with. And then to get everything else out, we might have to do a little bit of a finagling. My favorite thing about this sized bag is that it is big enough for me to fit a 5 by 8 inch watercolor journal inside of it. So rather than having to carry one separately, literally everything I need is in this pouch. This is the Handbook Travelogue watercolor journal, and I will go ahead again and put links in the description below to everything. I'll just do this as a blanket statement. Everything in this video you can find in the description below if it has a direct sales link. And this one is my favorite watercolor journal at the moment. And I did a video a little while back comparing my favorite journals if you want to see more about that. Link up here if I've still got enough iCards for that. I've been saying link up here a lot this video. Sorry about that. Once again, you will find my Faber-Castell dust-free eraser in here. This one has the sleeve still on it, although it's quite beaten up. Again, we've got our Pentel Aquash. This one is big enough to fit 2 of them in here. It's a magical bag. It just keeps giving. We've got 2 different size microns. I have a 005 and a 02. I also really like the Faber-Castell Pitt pens. I didn't have those in my bag this weekend, but I easily will interchange these 2 types of fine liners for my outlining work. Once again, I have my Pilot NO colored pencils that are erasable with some different colors in this one. I've got that Univille Signo. This is the broader tipped one that has a little bit better coverage. I do have a travel brush in this set as well. This is an Escoda Versatile, I believe. Yes, an Escoda Versatile in a size 6, and this one is convertible, so you have a longer handle with it. It has a better feel for me than working with one of the half-size brushes. I have fairly large hands, and so the half brushes are a little bit awkward to use. This brush did not get any use at all during my trip this time around, but I do really like this brush if you do want to use a non-water brush for it. It also has a hole at the tip of it so that the brush can dry out and it won't mold or get funky or anything like that. As we keep digging into this bag, I've got a new product to me. Some of you guys have heard my local art store went out of business, which I'm super sad about, but I went several times to check out the sales that they had available and found these little guys. These are Art Graph water-soluble graphite. Yes, I think I said that right. So these are really cool. They're blocks of graphite that are water soluble, and I use them like a watercolor pan. If you open them up inside, you've got these little flaps, and you can kind of see here, it's a bit light on this one, I should have opened the other one, that I use the side flap as kind of a little mixing palette to adjust the strength that I want the graphite to be in. The colors that I have here are called dark brown and sepia, but really the more accurate colors in watercolor terms would be that the dark brown, which, you guys, these are the worst representations of the colors that I've ever seen on a package before. So that aside, this is the dark brown. It looks like a sepia watercolor tone. This is the sepia color that shows it being red in the background, but it's really a yellow ochre color, and I'll show you those in just a few moments and how they actually work out. But I've been having a super fun time working with these, doing really loose sketches. I also carry a little watercolor spray bottle that I use to moisten my paints or refill my water brushes if I need them. The next thing in this bag is a little bit strange, but I got this tip from John Muir Laws, who does workshops here in the Bay Area, and you probably know him from his awesome nature journaling books that he has available on his website or on Amazon. These are sock cuffs, like on a crew sock, the part that you would pull up onto your leg, and he recommends going ahead and cutting those off, and then you can wear them and use them as a wiping rag. Paired with your Pentel Aquash, this is enough to do anything that you need to. You can wipe off colors that you are no longer using and then go back into your paint to get a new color, and it works really, really well. These were mostly clean when I left for my trip to Austin. I used them for a solid week or so, and you can see that they have plenty more uses until I'll need to wash them. I would recommend that if you are using some of the more toxic or heavy metal paints, that you might reconsider putting this on your wrist, just because it does soak through and that would be touching your skin. But for any of your non-toxic paints, this would be just fine. You can also just set them down on the table next to you and wipe, or there is enough room in here for a small rag if you would prefer that instead. Finally, what we have in here is not one, but two watercolor palettes. So these are the two that I took on my trip to Austin. The one that I by far used more was my Schmincke Academy. Now this is the set that came in that really cool Schmincke tin. I went ahead and replaced the colors in here with my Hordam colors, so this is holding the professional line of paint from them, and I went ahead and moved the Schmincke Academy, which there were only 12 pans instead of the 24, into this little 12 set. So I was using this all weekend. You can kind of see all the mixing areas, but the paints held up fairly well. I actually used a fair amount of the black, surprisingly. When I'm traveling, I don't like to have to stop and mix up a bunch of the other colors and kind of waste them. If you think about it kind of like printer ink, like you have a black cartridge so that you don't have to waste all of your other colors. And while I don't do that when I'm here in the studio and have plenty of resources, when I'm traveling, I find it is a nice little tip to get those darker colors that you need. So having a wide range of colors, this is the one I used more often, but I also brought my Colors of Nature watercolor tin as well, and these are the ones that are the natural, vegan, eco-friendly paints, and they have limited uses, but they are really, really beautiful, and they're actually the paints that I used to paint this picture of the bear. Like the smaller pouch, this one also has a zipper pouch inside, and I keep my cards inside of there so that if anyone asks, I have those ready. And then I also keep another little trick, surprise, handy tool that I got from John Muir Laws as well. and that is that this is like a little green slide filter that you can hold up. It's kind of like one of the red filters that people use for determining value, but the green works better in nature situations because of the way it cancels out colors. It helps you be able to see green and blues better, whereas the red can make it a little bit more difficult to see those values. I did want to say that this is big enough to hold the 2 half-pan watercolor tints if you have 2 different sets that you want to use, but it is also large enough to hold a full 24 half-pan set of watercolors. So this one I just got to finish up yesterday. I'm so excited when I got home from my trip. They were waiting for me in the mailbox. These are my White Nights watercolors, and you guys saw the review I had before. I think I had 8 or 9 colors, and I ordered off another 5 to finish off this 14 color set so that I would have this available for my next trip that I go on. So that is going to do it for the supplies inside of my travel bag, but I also thought I would show you some of my sketches from the trip that I took this past weekend, just for fun. I know some of you guys have been asking for a full sketchbook tour, which I am thinking about how to do that for the channel, but here's a mini one in the meantime. On the plane ride there, this was pretty interesting because my plane was at night, and I only had like the little airplane light, and when my hand was over the page, there was a shadow cast underneath it that was like almost black. So this was a bit of a challenge, but I am working on some ideas for a possible upcoming video that you may see pretty soon by doing some different cockatoos here. I did all of these with the Schmincke Academy watercolors, and you can see if you get a little bit closer that I used the Col-Erase color pencil in that like light orangish yellow. Let me go ahead and show you the magic of this eraser as well. If you want to go ahead and come in here and erase some of your lines after you've put your watercolor on, as long as the watercolor isn't over it, it comes right off. And we can do that in other areas as well to kind of clean up some of our edges. This next page in my journal is probably my favorite thing I did on the entire trip. This was also done on the airplane right there with the graphite in the 2 different colors. So I did a sketch first in a regular pencil, and I believe it was the black wing. I can still see some of like the graphite in the gray around the edges. And then we've got that dark brown color and what they call sepia. The reference photo that I used for this was actually really neat because it looked very similar to this. This zebra had a lot of brown on it, which I thought was really pretty and lent itself really well to the colors that I was using. The next sketch that I did was this deer over here, and this is when I was having lunch my first full day in Texas. For better or for worse, I mean, there's a lot of trophy hunting there, and I was able to avoid a lot of it. I had some friends give me some recommendations on places not to go if I didn't want to see that kind of thing, but where I was having lunch, they had a stag, and I could see it. This is the angle that I could see from the table I was sitting at, and then I decided to make him a little friend, so I did a doe down in the bottom of that page. This one was done, I think they both were done with the Schmincke Academy watercolors versus the graphite. The very, very first animal that I heard and then subsequently got a chance to see a lot of while I was there were the great-tailed grackles. Now, we do not have grackles where I live. On the range map, it looks like they could touch down where I am, but I've literally never seen one in my entire life. These are very, very loud, in my opinion, hilarious birds. I might have different opinions if I heard them all of the time. This is the female over on this side. This is the male that's a darker color and looking a little bit crazy, but I had a lot of fun watching these birds while I was there, and when I was sitting out at a coffee shop after lunch, when I did the deer sketches, I went ahead and sketched some of the female birds that were nearby. They all happened to be facing towards the left. That wasn't intentional. That was just the way these sketches ended up. These sketches here also go along with the previous cockatoos. Maybe you guys can figure out what I'm trying to figure out for an upcoming video here based on other videos that you've seen from me. Just some really cute little pink robins with a little bit of mythicalness added to them. This kudu was the last sketch that I did while I was in Austin, once again with the water-soluble graphite. It was a pretty quick one, and I feel like the page is still a little bare and I might want to do something in the background, but that is what I got done in the allotted time that I had. And finally finishing up on the plane ride home, I did this succulent. There were succulents all over Austin, which was really fun to see. And of course I thought of Jennifer Charlie while I was doing this. There was a pinkish purpley one, and I've never painted a succulent. I honestly don't have a lot of patience for it. I really don't like myself painting repetitious things, and so it was a lesson mostly in patience more than anything else about taking the time to go ahead and look at the reference, look at the way that the things are bending, and actually figure out how they're supposed to fit into a piece. And these are just some little silly doodles. There was a pillow at my friend's house that had this watercolor floral design on it, and so I had taken a picture of it and was just playing around. But at that point, it was pretty late at night on the plane. I was very tired, and again, I could not see my paper because of the way that the shadow was cast on the page. So those were just doodles more than anything else. For those of you who do bullet journaling, I just wanted to share real quickly with you, in case you were interested. This other one that I have here is full of the pens that I use for bullet journaling, including the Tombow dual brush pens, which are probably the longest pens that I own, and those all fit comfortably inside of here. So if you are a bullet journaler and want some storage for your pens or your markers, these also work really well for that. I want to thank you guys for watching the video today. I haven't done a video like this before, so I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below kind of what your favorite thing about my travel bag was, and let me know what you use in your travel bag, if there's anything different or things that you think I might enjoy having in mine. I would love to hear about it down below. If you enjoyed watching this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. That really helps with the YouTube algorithms. Be sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more content. And thank you, as always, to my amazing patrons who are making it possible for me to continue doing this job. I am so excited to be back home where I can start creating more videos and content and paintings for all of you, and I will, of course, see you in the next video. Thank you so much, and happy painting.